Hello, welcome to today's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. It's Friday's puzzle today, and a very good puzzle it was too. I'm going to put my solve up in a minute and we'll talk through it, but there's a lot of very interesting wordplay, and yeah, sometimes people think Friday's puzzle is sort of held back as being one of the most difficult, and I think that's that's fair enough. This probably wasn't a monstrously brutal puzzle. But there was a lot of, yeah, as I say, clever, unusual wordplay, and for that reason, it definitely deserves to be a Friday puzzle. So done in the style of Curious Old Warning. Well, if you know that there's an old word, alarum, then that clue becomes quite easy, and you can see I just wrote it in there. So it's ala done in the style of Curious Rum, alarum being the answer, and then I've made a mistake at 2 down, which was a bit silly, in that I could see it was probably a homophone for Lilo, and then I managed to, and I was frowning as I wrote in Lalo, thinking, well, that needs a very odd pronunciation to be a homophone for Lilo, but stupidly, of course, actually I needed to write in Lie. So you can see I'm now looking at range in which writer figures and thinking, I know I need a mountain range here and I just don't know the answer to this. Yeah, so you'll see actually throughout this puzzle I make a few errors that really hold me up. Louisa is a lovely clue. Let's just take a quick look at that. So I'll pause it so we can see. So girl's forte getting savings account for daughter. So this is one of these clues where we have a substitution. So savings account for daughter. You need to be thinking there about, can I put ISA, in, in for the D, which is often the abbreviation for daughter in the crossword. So if you can think of that, then coming up with short synonyms for forte, well, the most obvious one is obviously loud. So that gives you the opportunity to get Louisa. But you have to be expecting that substitution to happen. If you're not, that's the sort of clue that can be very difficult. When we come back up to 3 down, we'll take a look at that, because that's definitely worth looking at as well. You can see at the moment I'm looking at 5 down and failing to solve it. I think I go through several of the downs here and fail to solve most of them, including 10 across, where let's pause again just to briefly comment on it. This is obvious what's going on, so we need a word that means red. Blubber, so I knew I needed a 3-letter word for blubber, but I was convinced that word was going to be fat. And then that woman slices, so I was looking to put either her or she in the middle of my 3-letter fat word. Now, try as you might, you won't find a word that actually works in that, but I needed to think a little bit more laterally, or come up with the blubber cry synonym rather than the blubber fat synonym. And this is a good example, I think, 7 down, of a clue that is either a write-in if you see what the setter's doing, or it just seems what on earth's going on. So the reason this is clever, one arriving on day 6 looks like it's real wordplay. It looks like 1, okay, that could be an A or an I, arriving on day, well, day is often abbreviated to D. 6, whenever you see numbers like that in a Times crossword, you're always thinking of the Roman numeral, so you're then thinking about VI. I spent some time thinking about Ides here, and could that somehow be a reference to day 6? Which I don't think it is, but I knew at least Ides was a day, and at least it was sort of a short number of letters. And day 6 obviously also is Saturday, so I was thinking about that. And then I was thinking about if you've got a child being born on the 6th day, maybe there was some way in which that could be a Leo. But again, this is all nonsense. And all of this is going on at the same time that you're looking at the day before and instantly thinking of Eve as the, that's obviously the day before something is the eve of it. But in my head, because I got stuck on this wordplay, I just didn't think of the biblical reference. I mean, I do think about it in the end, but it's just annoying because that should be a write-in if you can come up with the right idea in your mind quickly enough. This clue, I had the G, so grasshoppers, to rat on somebody is to grass, and grain containers are hoppers. It's not too bad. And then here we've got, I don't think I get this at this point. I have a look at it and can't really understand how that's working, and it's a nice anagram there. And this also is a clever clue at 13 down. I think the reason it's clever, it's referring to a real life event. So again, I'll just pause briefly. So only a fool would assume this pleb scandal resolved. I think this is a reference to the MP who called the policeman a pleb. And it just so happens that pleb scandal is an anagram of cap and bells, which I think is what they used to put fools in court. You would have to dress them in a cap and bells. So that's where that reference is coming from. But it's great that pleb scandal anagrams into that phrase. 17 across was difficult. Okay, so we're coming back now towards the top. 4 down. I've now managed to get this as being mano a mano. So a twin moans dreadfully. You can see the dreadfully there is okay. That looks like it's an anagram indicator, but I know we need 9 letters, and a twin moans is 10 letters. And I looked at that for ages, thinking, what on earth is going on? And it's and it's just not an easy wordplay to pass. The way I think that it needs to be read is that you need to anagram 2 words, 2 moan words, so that S at the end of moans there is not part of the anagram. What you need is to anagram an A and then 2 moans, M-O-A-N and then M-O-A-N again. So it's a slightly indirect anagram reference, which is very unusual to see, and that's, I think, why it wasn't just a write-in, even though I think I had the M when I was looking at it. And yeah, yet another example of why this crossword is quite interesting. And now I finally spot what's going on with 2 down. So I figure out that 9s is possible for figures in 9 across, and then I can think of pennines, and then that must be the answer. So I realise I've made a mistake at 2 down. So take cover from inflatable mattress picked up. Well, picked up is indicating the homophone. Lay low, well, doesn't really sound like Lilo, and Lilo does. So take cover from lie low. The screen's got funny there, I don't know why that is. Anyway, let's carry on. Hopefully you can still see the crossword. Here, having another look at 5 down and not solving it. 12 across. So when I read this, home appropriate for the richer. Home, I want that to be in. It's very, very commonly used. And then I think I'm looking for a word which means for the richer, but I couldn't think of a word that meant that. So the rest of it was just tricky. And I think I spent about a minute here flitting between clues, trying to work out what's going on. We go round it daily was nice. So it almost looks like it's a quick crossword clue, that. But the way you need to read it is we go round it, well, we go round the sun, and a daily paper is the sun, which makes it a valid cryptic clue. One needing guard perhaps to start shooting. Well, that's a reference to an open fire needing a fire guard in front of it. So again, nice clue. And let's just take a quick look at 21 down as well, because again, maybe it's not so easy to pass this when you're solving at speed. So where the commandments were received, well, that's Mount Sinai, so that looks like it's the answer, but why? You've got breaking one leads to fine. Now, if you're like me and you just, you focus just on the words that I've just read, breaking one leads to fine, you'll really struggle to understand how the answer to this can be Sinai. You can see A1 at the end. Well, that could be fine. That looks like that. But I need the first bit of this clue to give me SIN somehow. And breaking one, well, I can see one might be I, but why is there an S and an N there? And the reason this is difficult is actually this breaking one here is referring back to the definition. It's referring to where commandments were received, and if you break a commandment, you sin. So yet another example, I think, of an unusual use of an unusual cluing device, and that's definitely a feature of this puzzle. This was a clever clue, 18 down, because again, it's almost deliberately misleading. Upset body organising football legends friendly. Well, especially as I've got the E at the end there, I'm absolutely convinced that this involves the word Pele. Now, if you've been watching the vlog this week, you would know that I should not be assuming that Pele can be involved at all, because Pele is still alive, and therefore it can't involve Pele because of the rules of the crossword. But that didn't stop me being absolutely convinced Pele was involved, and it took me some time to realise that I needed to read the clue differently, and it was an upset body organising football. Well, that's the FA, so I reverse that, I get AF, and then a legend is a fable, and affable is a word that means friendly. So clever clue. Okay, I don't think I solve either of these now, and I'll see how I flit around. I spend quite a long time, I think, on that TV show clue in a minute. And then I get a phone call, which doesn't help, so my time here is slightly inflated. You'll see that I have to pause the video at some point, and the timer will jump forward. Here, pretend that degree is fake bizarrely. Well, the bizarrely is, that makes you think we must be looking at an anagram, and indeed we are, but it's only a partial anagram there. Degree is MA, and then is fake is anagrammed into the KE as if part of the wordplay there. So make as if. Now I've finally figured out affable, which is good. And then I think I do solve boatload here just from the B, which is a good solve. So you've got reptile, which is boa, and then toad around the outside of L for left, and cargo being a boatload. The 23 o'clock cross was the last one I actually managed to put in the clue. It's another very good piece of misdirection. Very hard to read that clue and know what on earth is going on with it. Flitting around here like nobody's business, trying to get some sort of traction on the clues I haven't solved. And finally I settle on the 6 down. I think I probably do solve this now. So going back through is the definition there, and then you've got park for rec, as in a recreation park or a recreation ground, and then pop over is a reversal of par, and that finally allows me to work back into cherry. So I finally work out that cry can be blubber, and I can put my her in the middle of that, and I can get something that means red. And still don't solve Eve. I think I come back to it now and finally sort of realise what's going on. And now I make my next mistake. There we go. So, groom guarding enclosure for money. Well, an enclosure, short synonym for enclosure is pen. And I can see that if I put penny at the end of this, it looks like I'm going to be able to create a word that means money. And I was thinking of maybe there's fourpenny, maybe that could be an old word for money. And then I decide, oh no, it'll be pence, because I couldn't think of anything that was fourpenny or anything like that. So I spend some time now thinking about a word for groom. And I almost put in fourpence, F-O-R-P-E-N-C-E, on the basis that I wondered whether to groom something could be to force it in some obscure meaning of the word force. But no, that's not going to help me. In pocket, I'm now able to solve because I can see I have the P of pocket. So that was quite tricky. So if you're for the richer, you're in pocket. And now I'm just working on the anagram at 13 down. Cap and bells, but certainly was. I mean, it's an expression. You know, if you'd said, is it a phrase? Yeah, I would have gone, yeah, it is. But it certainly wasn't tripping off the tongue. I thought this was a very clever clue at 22 across. So brother returning in poor TV show, and I wanted that to be. I thought of brother being BRO rather than just BR. So I was trying to put OR at the start of this, which wasn't helpful. And eventually I then think of BR reversing, and then I was thinking of doctor. So I was trying to think of Dr. Foster, Doctor Who, only it took me some time to come up with Mr. B as being a possible start to a TV show, and of course once you do that, Mr. Bean becomes, hopefully I'll be relatively quick in seeing it now. No, you can see I'm still mulling over the possibilities of Doctor, I think, at this point. Mr. Bean, I presume, is allowed, although it is a fairly current TV show because Mr. Bean is fictional rather than Pele, who is, alive and very much non-fictional. Opium Wars, let's just take a quick look at that. So RMP was 1, so we've got an anagram going on here of RMP was and I for 1, and arranging, obviously, telling you to anagram it up. And campaigns on drug issue for Opium Wars. Nice clue. And then the Desert Padre as hearse turns up, dropping off regulars. Well, that's a hidden sort of alternate reversal. If you look at the letters of Padre as hearse and you take alternate letters and reverse them, you can make Sahara out of that. And stays generally. I managed in the end, I think this was a pretty difficult clue. So well prepared on track. Well, it looks for all the world like you're looking for a 6-letter word meaning well prepared, and you're going to put that on an RY for a railway track. But no, it's cleverer than that. So well is core, as in the exclamation. If you say well I never. Core could be a synonym for that meaning of the word well. And then prepared is set. So you've got corset, RY, and corsetry being stays generally, as in the meaning of stay being a corset. So difficult clue, and doesn't help me at all with my my misreading of 5 across, because it seems to support the fact that this is something pence. Which it isn't. And I think in the end what I have to do is back into 5 down, where it's a clever clue. So clay perhaps, I'm sure that everyone solving this, the moment they saw clay perhaps, they thought of Cassius clay, but if you're like me, you thought of the short synonym for clay, which is Ali. So I was convinced I needed to put Ali somehow into something or around the edge of something, in order to create a word that meant a college. And small spades, well, that looks like it could be, spades can be S, small can be S, but it could also be wee, or there are short synonyms for the word small, and I was trying to juggle those around before actually settling back onto the obvious. It's a bit like the Eve clue earlier, and once you focus in on Cassius, you can see how Keys is the name of a college. That's C-A-I-U-S. Certainly there's a college in Cambridge called Gonville and Keys. There's probably an Oxford college just called Keys. Not sure. I remember Gonville and Keys though when I was up at uni. So there, I've got Cassius now, and I can see I must have made a mistake. So now I'm trying to work out how, and I've finally figured out that currency. So to groom is to curry, and then that's going around. Enk for enclosure. So pen was irrelevant. I don't know whether the setter deliberately phrased the clue that way to mislead, but if he did, it was, or she did, it was a brilliant piece of misdirection, and certainly fooled me. Now let's take a quick look at 17 across. You've got not entirely fit trade making flannel. Well, you can see, I think, that this looks like it's a short word that means fit that we're going to shorten further, and then a word for trade. Now, and the whole thing will mean flannel. And I don't know whether this is a hard clue or not, but this is the sort of clue I really struggle with, because especially if you look at the letters I have in the grid, they are, I don't know how many words there are that fit this pattern. In fact, I have a piece of software here that will tell us. Let's have a look. I'm just going to move this over here. This is a piece of software called T, sold by Ross Beresford, former editor of the Listener crossword, and a very, very fine solver, and also very good at writing computer programs. But let's just see how many words there are. Okay, there aren't that many. So there's equivocation and invigoration, but when I looked at this, I thought there would be many more possibilities. Let's try it without the T there. No, it doesn't give you any more. So I was convinced that this was going to be very difficult to solve, and you just have to basically grind it out. And eventually I came up with vocation as being a possible word for a trade, and then equivocation quickly follows. So if you fit something out, you equip it. So it's that meaning of the word fit that I think that the setter was getting at. And of course, once you have the Q, square up is easy. Let's just take a quick look at that one as well. Prepare to scrap pay. This is a brilliant clue, because it's a double definition, but it's very difficult to spot that it's a double definition. It looks like it means prepare, and it looks like it's a short word meaning scrap followed by a word which means pay, whereas prepare to scrap is to square up, and yeah, it's just a very nice surface the setters managed to create by using these two meanings of square up. And we come on to the last one in. So I think I can run the video here because it takes me about a minute to solve this clue. With this one's closer to nude model. So it conjures up quite an interesting image, and it requires a very careful reading in order to understand how this clue works. And you need to make the split in the clue between the word nude and the word model. So if you're with this one's closer to nude, you need to, if you have less on, you would be closer to being nude. And a lesson is a model. So very, very interesting wordplay, and frankly very clever, as a number of the clues in this puzzle have been. So very enjoyable, difficult puzzle, a lot to learn from it, for me as well. I hope this run through has been helpful. We'll be back we'll be back tomorrow with more videos, whether they'll be crosswords or Sudokus. And one of our regular viewers has asked us to take a look at very hard killer Sudokus that feature on a website called, I think it's dailykillersudoku.com. So we'll try and do that as well over the coming days. And thanks for watching.